Let's take the discussion a little further now. I'm joined live from Beijing by current affairs commentator Einar Tangen. So, Einar, how do you see these latest accusations and the potential repercussions impacting businesses in both countries?
Rochelle, it's more sweet and sour politics, Trump style. He likes to, one tweet is sweet and the next one comes out as sour. This is just one of his ways. He likes to vilify what he sees are his opponents. He's more than happy to turn on a course. If you think of how he treated his presidential opponents, calling them all sorts of names, their wives, things like that, and then going back and supporting them on the campaign trail. So this is par for the course. Unfortunately, it does not make him a reliable partner. I noticed that the Attorney General, Sessions, was saying that he wants China to join a lawful order. But here's the problem. The U.S. is the one who is repudiating unilaterally treaties, everything from climate accord to the Russian intermediate missile compact. So difficult to see how this is necessarily going to help.
And it's interesting because, as you mentioned, we know that Trump said that he spoke to Xi Jinping and said that their discussions on several issues are moving along nicely. But then you have this rhetoric at some of these campaign rallies and policy actions that basically contradict that. So what message does that send, not just to China, but to all of their global partners?
Well, that's the interesting part. He tweets, and everything's going great with Xi. We're going to have a meeting. The market goes up, and then 3-4 hours later, his administration is accusing China of state-sponsored economic spying. So no one knows what to make of Trump. This is part of his style. It's create chaos and then see what comes out of it. Unfortunately, this does not work when you're a statesman. It's not good for business and it's not good for politics. No one can figure out where he's going, therefore they refrain. Worldwide investment in machinery is down. This means that the world is going to face repercussions in about 16 to 18 months as the pipeline runs dry.
And speaking of pipelines, we know that the Justice Department is alleging that Chinese threats to U.S. companies that provide components for some of these more sensitive technologies. So what are the broader implications for the huge telecom sector supply chain?
Well, increasingly, you're seeing China go its own way. I mean, the irony here is Donald Trump's action is forcing China to be more self-reliant rather than creating this community of shared interests where the low-cost provider, the best technology is available to the world, of course, at a price. But this is, as I said, par for the course. He likes to vilify different people who he sees as opportune targets. And China is in his latest scope. I mean, the number of stories that are coming across as anti-China has ramped up considerably. It's up over 50% in the last 18 months. And, this idea that somehow that Trump is just playing politics at this point. Remember, everyone thought that when he was on the campaign trail for the president. And unfortunately, he carried over all the themes and all the promises that he made on the campaign trail. So people should be taking and watching his actions very seriously. They will impact the future. China should be very wary about where it's going to put its cards. Helping Donald Trump at this point is not going to be helpful for China.
So against that backdrop, then, we know that Trump and Xi are going to be meeting at the upcoming G20 summit. So given how previous talks have gone and against this backdrop of rhetoric, what are the expectations then?
Well, there are very few expectations when Trump has a person-to-person meeting. If it's anything substantive, he keeps it under wraps. There's no one around. Otherwise, it's kind of like the meeting with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. You have a lot of nice words, but nothing really comes of it. I mean, the DPRK has faded into the backdrop as Donald Trump tries to find a target that has more political value as he pushes for these elections.
Now, Beijing says that the U.S. has been unfairly targeting China, first with the tariffs and then the student visas, and now with this accusation of intellectual property theft. What else could be coming? Is there a best-case scenario as to how this all ends?
Well, I don't think there's a good case scenario. I mean, Donald Trump is trying to vilify. Remember, this is not just China's problem. He's called anybody from South America basically rapists and drug dealers. He's made it clear how he feels about Africans, people who live in huts in S-hole countries. And now he's moving it on to people who are Asian and saying basically unreliable, just thieves. They take our intellectual property. So, and when you start looking at it, the only group that he appears to like is the white race. And that is going to have problems. The United States is turning more and more brown. It's multicolored. And this could spell the end for the Republican Party if he continues in this.
We'll certainly have to see what happens in the midterm elections. Thank you so much. Current affairs commentator there, Einar Tangen.